Today, I'm going to be reading a question from a subscriber who asked a question about their nephew. This subscriber has a nephew that's in industrial engineering, and the question goes like this. Can you please talk about your experience in the field of lean, continuous improvement, business improvement, and maybe suggest a roadmap? And so I thought about how I want to answer this question. So I thought I'd lay out, first of all, to answer the question, because when I try to answer these questions from subscribers, I try to answer the questions in a way that not only answers their question, but would also answer other people's questions, right? That might have inquiries about this field or be wondering about lean. And that way I don't just answer one question, but I'm answering a bunch of questions. At least that's what I attempt to do, although I'm not very good at it. But I'll try to do that in this video. And so what I want to do is I am going to share my career path in next week's video, right? So you can kind of see how I went about my career path. And that way you're going to see a lot of bumps and bruises because, I had to learn by trial and error. Nobody showed me the way of what this career path would lead to. But first I want to talk about in this video, how your nephew maybe can avoid some of those bumps and bruises. So these are things I wish I would have known when I started this career. Now I may glance down at some notes because I did actually do a little research. I'm putting together some job research on salaries and what these jobs are asking for, like green belts. Do you need a degree, a black belt, a master black belt, what the salary requirements are, how many years of experience, all of these things I'm putting together in this research report. So if you want access to that, there'll be a link down in the description below. It'll take you over to my website and you can just sign up for that free resource. It's very interesting. I'm already seeing some things pop out that are interesting to me. They'll probably be interesting to you as well. So let's talk about lean job statistics. I'm going to glance down at some notes here. So according to a recent study conducted by the National Association of Lean Professionals, lean jobs have grown significantly in the past decade. Now, there's one thing I want to note here, and that is that when we say lean, we mean lean, continuous improvement, business improvement, all those titles that kind of go in there. But they use lean in this particular statistic or research. And in fact, the study found that 20% of all organizations have adopted a lean system and that job postings for lean professionals have increased by nearly 30% over the past 5 years. And the study went on to conclude that lean professionals can expect to earn an average salary of between $70,000 and $90,000 a year with just a couple of years experience. Now, I started way back in 1995, I believe, is when it all started for me. So I wasn't making that much back then. I do think that the salaries have increased. I think lean's become more prominent. So now let's get down into the nuts and bolts, and that is 5 lean career tips I wish I knew when I started my career. And tip number 1 is to take relevant courses. Now, industrial engineering is a fantastic degree and complements lean well. In fact, some would argue that lean and industrial engineering are the same. And I would say that there are certainly similarities between the two, but where they differ is lean takes what's in industrial engineering and simplifies it down so that everyone can understand lean and that anyone can start implementing lean. Lean is about culture. Industrial engineering is concerned with the design, analysis, and control of production and service operations and systems. Industrial engineering is just a bit more high level, more technical, whereas when you get into lean, you're talking about culture and you're really getting the culture to understand the principles behind lean manufacturing. And it starts with some very simple things like 5S and understanding how to see waste in your own process so you can fix the waste in your own process, right? And what this does is it takes the burden off industrial engineers, off of management and roles like those so that people can actually have the power, we call that empowerment, right? Empowering the people to actually be autonomous in their own situation, their own workspaces, so they can make their own space and work better, faster, leaner. But they got to learn, they got to know how to do that, right? And so not everybody wants to learn all the technical terms of industrial engineers or any engineering for that matter. What they want to know is just tell me how I can do my job faster and better. And I think that's where lean differs. It's all about getting that culture up to speed. Now, this is where industrial engineers, well, not just industrial engineers, any engineer, anyone in management, anyone as a supervisor, anyone in the business actually can learn how to train folks in lean, because again, we can simplify lean down to a few key concepts. Now, yeah, you can get into some more complex things, complex topics within lean, but if you boil it down, it's about reducing the 8 wastes. And I talk about that a lot in my videos, so I'm not going to go into that in this video. So when I say things like take relevant courses, go out and find some extra training, unless the company's paying for it, you're going to have to pay for it yourself. And who wants to go out and incur more debt after you just graduate from college? But this takes us into tip 2, which is get down in the weeds. You know, as engineers, we like to solve problems in rooms, right? We go to a room with a whiteboard and solve problems. But unfortunately, that's not where you solve the problems, not the best anyway. You need to go out to where the Gemba is. We call this Gemba, right? Where the actual work is being done, the actual value is being created. And that's out by the operators. If you're working in a manufacturing environment, if you're working in a transactional service industry, then you're going to go to where accounting is. You're going to go to where finance is. That's where the problem's actually happening, and that's where you're going to solve the problems. That's where you're going to improve the processes. You can't do that in a room. And so that leads me to tip number 3. Find a role at a company that allows you to experiment and supports you so that you can grow in your profession. I'm currently reading the book So Good They Can't Ignore You. I'll put a link in the description below where you can go pick this up on Amazon if you want. It's a really good book. I'm going through it again and taking notes, but it talks about the craftsman mindset versus the passion mindset. I think Steve Jobs once said, if you follow your passion, you'll never work a day in your life. And the book talks about how that can be very detrimental to your career and to your life, to be quite frank. You know, if you go to a bookstore, there are tons of books on passion, right? Follow your passion and how to do that, how to find out what your passion is. But this mindset of follow your passion can be detrimental. And the book talks about that. And it goes into research and gives a lot of stories that are real stories on why that has been detrimental to other folks' lives that this person did research on. And it talks about more focusing on your craftsman, that craftsman mindset. And that means becoming really good at something until it becomes your passion, which might sound kind of silly, but let me tell you, it worked out for me that way. So I didn't really like lean, Kaizen, root cause analysis, but then I started getting good at it, right? And I started getting to a point where I was, hey, I kind of like this. And then people started asking me questions and they started seeking my advice on these subjects. And that's when I was like, this is my passion. But it wasn't just lean, Kaizen, Six Sigma. That was my passion. It was also that combined with helping people, because I love helping people. So, you know, if I just went out and said, my passion is helping people, well, what am I going to help them do? I don't know anything when I'm 18, 19, 23. I mean, what do I know, right? But when you learn something and you learn a skill and you get really good at that skill, and if you have a passion for helping people, you can combine those two. And now my passion is helping people learn lean, Kaizen, root cause analysis, and that kind of thing. Now, the author does go on to discuss 3 traits that define great work, and those are creativity. You must be allowed to be creative in your environment. And number 2, impact. You got to be making an impact in some way, and it's a positive impact, right? And you have to feel like it's a positive impact. And number 3, control. You should always have some control over your workday, over your career path. There should be some support allowing you that control. Maybe be thinking to yourself, Chad, that's great, but how do I find a role at a company like that? And to be honest, you won't at first unless you're really lucky, right? You don't usually find that kind of gem when you first start digging, right? You got to dig a little bit and you got to go through some rough stones and some fake diamonds and things like that before you actually find the gem that you're looking for. And so I would encourage you to keep digging and fail a little, and then you will find the company that supports you. You will find the role at the company that supports you and allows you to have those 3 things: creativity, impact, and control. But it's not enough just to have a degree, right? Even in the world we work, there's something called supply and demand. And so you have to have something worth supplying that's in demand. And the author in the book calls that career capital. And so you have to build career capital. Getting down in the weeds and failing and learning and growing and getting that wisdom gives you the career capital that you can use as your supply that's in demand. But you got to make sure you're focused on the right things. And to me, there's no better field than lean, Kaizen, root cause analysis. Learning these niche sort of skill sets is the best career capital I've ever had. Now, I'm not saying being a neurosurgeon isn't great career capital. Sure it is. It's lucrative. It's great. But for me, you know, that wasn't the career path that I chose. And I wouldn't say that I even chose this one. I kind of fell into it. I'm getting close to the end of the video, I promise. Tip number 4 is don't be afraid of coaching. And here's the thing. When you're young, you can't go to the CEO, probably. In most companies, you can't do that, right? There are certain levels you need to go through to go to the CEO. But you can certainly find someone that's 2 levels above you. Maybe it's a manager, senior manager, or even a director or VP. You can go to them and say, listen, I need coaching in this area, and I know you're good at that, or I've heard you're good at that. Do you mind giving me some tips, or do you mind coaching me for a month or so? And you'd be surprised at the people that are willing to coach. Because as you move up, you're going to be willing to do the same thing because you're going to have that career capital that you want to share. you don't want to hold on to that, right? You're going to want to share that. And so you're going to want to coach folks as well. And there's other folks out there that do the same thing. That's why I have this YouTube channel. That's why, I love coaching and helping people as well. So don't be afraid of coaching is tip number 4. Tip number 5, don't rush it. It takes time to build career capital. As I mentioned, when I started off my career and I was young, I wanted everything really fast. And a lot of people say, well, we live in a culture of instant gratification. I think we've always lived in a culture of instant gratification, especially when you're young. You want things really fast. Nothing great happens overnight. Don't be afraid also to experiment, right? Experiment, fail, try again, fail again, and even jump companies if the company's not working out. Now, why do I love this career path, lean, continuous improvement, and business improvement? Well, it's because you can use it in any field, right? I mean, everyone needs a person or someone that knows how to create and improve processes, and they need people that know how to solve complex problems, and that's what this field does. And so that's why I love this field. It's a very niche field, and it's career capital that I think can be used in any business, in any field, and that's why I talk about it all the time. So if you want to know more about this, you can obviously just go over to my website. I'll put a link down in the description below. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.